All right, so let's get this started. So obviously, we're gonna go with today's shindig is for January. We're gonna go over tools, theme review tools. We're gonna start off going from right to left. So me, I am Jose. I'm one of the theme review key reviewers. I work at Maintain with Web Dev Studios, and I've been reviewing for the last 4 or 5 years now. Next, we got Ulrich. Tell us about yourself and what you do.
Yeah, hi, I'm Ulrich. I'm from Switzerland. I work for a Swiss agency and been reviewing for some years now. Actually got in through Emil and yeah, happy to be part of the automation team and happy to be part of the Shindig today.
Awesome, awesome. And then we got Cristiano.
Hi, my name is Cristiano. I'm a WordPress theme reviewer and Italian WordPress support coordinator, WordPress and WooCommerce meetup organizer, WordCamp organizer and volunteer, WordPress and WooCommerce freelance, and lately WooCommerce teacher. I say that I'm involved enough in the WordPress community.
Awesome, awesome. And then we got Afsal. Tell us about yourself.
Hello. My name's Afsar in England. So I've been developing themes now since 2013, but been involved with WordPress just as a general user before that and support forums, things like that. And I guess just getting involved with these hangouts to share knowledge and hopefully help others become better reviewers. Yeah, so this year should be exciting. Hopefully you guys find this hangout useful.
Awesome, awesome. Good to know, good to know. So we have a Google Doc, which I can't remember what I did with it, but we will share it not only in the review channel, but we'll also post it on one of the links in the description after this. It goes over a couple things, and one of the things that we obviously want to emphasize right now, at least, is automation. I know Ulrich, you guys, and like a couple other people are working on that. Want to quickly go over some of that, what it does, and how people can contribute to it?
Yeah, sure. So we're working on improving the theme review process by automating a lot more of it. And so at WordCamp Europe, I was talking with a few people, how could we do this? Because there's a couple of problems with the current plugin, with there's no unit tests in it, or checking that, if you make a change, how much will it affect current themes and all that. And so we came down to this PHP code sniffer. And so there's already a WordPress code sniffer, which makes sure that people follow the WordPress coding standards. And that's how it started. And we just started creating new sniffs and looking what can we implement. And so we're working on that at the moment. And then hopefully we've also created like small little plugins that you could use to test it, but they're not fully ready then to be implemented on WordPress.org. But this is somewhere, so we could use help with creating sniffs, even testing the sniffs, trying it out in your themes, letting us know if there are any false positives and things like that.
Awesome, awesome. I know I actually haven't gotten a chance to play around with it just yet, but I know I've talked to Kevin once in a while about this too. He tried helping out a couple times. Cristiano, Asal, have you guys had a chance to play with it or at least seen it?
I've used it.
I'm
Cristiano?
about to run it shortly.
Oh, no problem, no problem.
I'm gonna run through it. I think we're all getting a bit nervous now on the spot with Ulrich here.
Okay. I've tested the automation stuff in Atom software. Atom is a free IDE that you can use to program everything. And also in PHP Storm, you can install the PHP code sniffer, and you can install not only a general code sniffer, but is suited perfectly on the WordPress code environment. So you can check if your syntax is right, and I suggest to use it, and I suggest to use it especially in a development environment. So one recommendation that I make in this Hangout is not to make editing in production side, because it's something is not so clear to many developers that you must avoid to make the testing and editing in a production website. So it's very important to use unit test, and the automation team is making a great job automating a lot of check. And I suggest and I invite the people who are listening us to use more and more this software, and to get in Slack and ask if they don't know something about it.
Yeah, if you've got any questions, I mean, you can easily ping me on in theme review channel and stuff like that. I can help you get it set up and everything. So it helps when people test it.
I have in the past used the sniffs, the WordPress ones, the core sniffs in Atom. I mean, they were overwhelming in comparison to sort of checks we need for theme review. So I think that the things that Ulrich and the rest of the automation team are working on, having the checks highlighted in whichever IDE you're using, will be really effective for developers.
Yeah, that's one of my goals also, to reduce the amount of errors, that they're only specific to the theme review. And so you're not getting errors to do with styling, which is not a requirement, and things like that.
Exactly.
Maybe if we have time today, then I can perhaps do a little demo, just show how it works and show the different tools that we've got.
Yeah, that would be very useful.
Awesome. You know, I was going to say, if anything, actually, if you want to share your screen, we could actually get that going.
Yeah, sure. Oops. Okay. So, do you see my screen?
We can.
Yes.
Cool. So, this is one of the... with the help of a few other people, I was able to extend the current theme check. I shared the zip file in the theme review repository in the channel. And so this means that you can just choose out your theme that you've got on your install, click sniff it, and it runs through what we've currently got in our checks. So these are a lot of warnings, and so there's still letting us know that there's potentially a risk with not using escaped functions for translations. And so that's most of them here. But then there's like an element here where there's a variable which says term description, which is most likely being echoed. So what we could do also is then switch to our IDE. I think it was, that was the archive.php.
Yeah, doing it wrong archive.
Yeah, and so you just need, so you can also then, you get the line number, so it's line number 75. So just need to scroll down, and here it is. So you're seeing that it's being printed, but it's not being escaped. And so this is the cool thing also then, how I've set it up now with my IDE with Atom. So you see that I've got the same warning here in line, so that when you're live coding or whatever, so you get to see the same errors.
Right. Oh, that's, yeah.
And so, you know, I can quickly solve it by just doing escape HTML. These should be fixed in the next update of WPCS. So now the error's gone here. So I'm not getting error. There's a few up here with the functions, but this one down here has disappeared. So this is the useful thing of it. On the other hand, there's another plugin that someone else created.
The NS theme check. Okay.
Yeah, NS theme check. And so that does the same thing. It's just, but this one just does this. It's not integrated with the other theme check. It's a bit smaller, and so you still get the same output. The only difference with this one is that you need to have Composer installed on your local machine or on your server or whatever to be able to install the code sniffers and like that.
Okay.
And perhaps the last demo that I can do is, oops, wrong screen, is like in the command line. So you can easily just do it with PHP CS. I've just added a few custom things like the width, colors. Then you define the standard, which we have WordPress theme, and then I can apply
I
it
don't think
to.
we can see your terminal.
It's
Yeah.
too. Oh, sorry. Did you see Atom before?
No.
I was following it with an theme check.
Oh, sorry. Oh wait, let me change that. Just doing the first time. It's.
No problem. Take your time.
Right. Okay, stopped it. I'll just show Atom now.
Okay,
Yeah.
excellent.
Repeat quickly what I said before. So here in Atom, you get an error when you go to that line to archive and then line 75. And so that's the cool thing. So when you're editing, that you can see it there. And then you could just get rid of the error just by wrapping it within a bracket. Yeah, if you see these errors here come up, not sure if you saw them. Those should be fixed in the next update of WordPress Code Sniffer.
Okay.
Cool.
So how far away from having the sniff that covers all the theme requirements are we, or are you guys in automation?
I think a lot of the things that we can do with the Code Sniffer, we've made good progress. I was just thinking about that yesterday, and I think we need to. Also, the WordPress Code Sniffer is at version 10, and I think we need to wait till at least version 12 before we're at a point where we could implement it on WordPress.org.
Okay.
Because we're waiting for a few things. Like recently, we had a pull request merge that was checking for deprecated functions and things like that.
Okay.
So that should get added to version 11. And then we're hoping to add a few helper functions and things like that that we could use with our sniffs to reduce the amount of code that we need to repeat. And that will most likely come in version 12.
Okay.
So I think we would need another 6 months or something to get to a point, but
Okay.
which is not
But-
that long in the bigger scheme of things. So in 6 months' time, it could be a very different review process from what we currently have.
yeah.
Yeah. We have seen recently WP command line the interface that is becoming part of WordPress.org. Yeah, and that's another important step to improve all the environment. Also, with because Sniffer should be another great tools to be part of WordPress.org in the same way.
Yes, I think that would be an interesting idea to get a bit more support. And I think there's also trying to get support from other companies. I think a lot of companies do code reviews and things like that. And just trying to get contribution even upstream to the WordPress Code Sniffer, not even necessarily to the theme review one. And a lot of the things can be applied to plugins also. Like even the deprecated function sniff or something like that.
Yeah.
Oh, that looks very helpful.
And do you see my command line?
Yes, we see command line now.
Yes.
Okay, so this is so you can also run it in command line, and you can apply colors, and you can also hide all of the warnings. So if you're doing a review for someone, you can easily then just add the -n at in the command, and then it just add all of the errors, and then you can just easily just copy this and share it in your review.
Okay.
So it saves you from typing a lot of extra stuff and things like that. Because some of
And
the
so
warnings don't all apply.
And so I guess the automated checks, there'll be 3 different ways of doing it: command line, the sniffs within Atom or other IDEs, and the theme check plugin. Will
Yeah.
they all give exactly the same output? Or
Yes,
is there a
because it
benefit?
all runs on the same code.
Okay.
It's just different ways of being integrated into the current systems or whatever. And
Okay.
that's the same checks that we will be, the same code that we will be running on WordPress.org.
Okay.
Makes sense. Makes sense.
Cool.
So do we want to discuss about what we ourselves do personally, what sort of environments we're using?
Yeah. Obviously, one of the things I've always mentioned and I've always said and I still stick to is use what you're more comfortable with. You know, it's a lot of it is because you don't want to be diving into something new and having to relearn everything over again. I mean, what do you guys think? What have you used? That's the other question.
I guess if I were to share my experience, I agree with you. You know, stick to what you're most comfortable with, but also you should be open to new tools. For example, I use Notepad++, which I know a lot of other people don't use. You know, it's quite a basic editor in that sense, and it does make reviewing a bit more difficult because it doesn't give you any automated checks. And I just work off of a local host installation. And I find that works for me. I'm very comfortable with Notepad++. But with the introduction of theme review specific sniffs, I'm moving more now over towards Atom. So that's just a perfect example of, you know, stick to what you like and you're comfortable with. But, you know, reviewing can be speeded up significantly if you take advantage of some of those tools.
Yeah, Cristiano, what have you used?
I've started using in the past different editor, but now I've started using PHP Storm, then Atom, and now I'm back to PHP Storm only for a specific reason, because Atom sometimes in my laptop had some problems with the memory with the very huge files, but I love the Atom ID because it's completely free, but it's a high premium quality. So it's not something free that has no value, but has a big value, and and there's a lot of modules made by community guys. So I suggest to use it, and I use for local environment. I am a Linux user, so I don't have a virtual environment. I use my operation systems to test it, my website in local environment, but sometimes I use BVV to test it things and for DB, etc. And I suggest to use it also because has a lot of pre-installed PHP unit test and the code sniffer and all the stuff that made by WordPress community, and help a lot if you have to test in a local environment. You can use it in Mac or in PC or in Linux and every OS you have. So this is the stuff that I use.
Very nice, very nice. Ulrich?
Yeah, I started using, it started off as Notepad++, then switched to Brackets. And recently, because of certain issues with it, having problems with huge projects, and due to some recommendations that I got from the group review, I started using Atom now.
Yeah. You've been converted.
Yeah. So I did start using Notepad++ as well. That was like one of the first things that I was like, ooh, that's super cool. You know, you could do this, you could do that. And then once I switched over to actually like using a Mac, I was like, oh, what's something close to this? So I started obviously looking around, fiddled with like Coda, TextMate. Of course, you can't rule out Dreamweaver. You know, you have to learn something like that. You're like, all right, cool. You know, this is neat. And then I came across Sublime, and I was like, oh, that's kind of a cool one. You know, I've learned a little bit from that, and then currently I'm in between both now, Sublime and Atom. They both have obviously their advantages and disadvantages. Atom, one of the things that I really liked about it was obviously it's open source. People can come in and just say, hey, I want to improve this. I want to work on this a little bit more. But the downside, as Cristiano, you pointed out too, sometimes the files can get huge, and it starts to lag. And I was actually doing a reading the other day, and somebody compared obviously Atom, Sublime, and I think it was Visual Studio Code. And what ended up happening was he timed everything. And of course Sublime was doing better on certain things. Atom was okay. Visual Studio, it's Visual Studio. So I dabbled with that, and then when it comes to like actual environments, I started with basic Apache and MySQL, trying to figure out how it worked. Couldn't for the life of me. Then I was like, oh, I'll try XAMPP, I'll try WAMP, I'll try this, I'll try that. Finally stumbled across VVV and haven't actually used anything else after that.
So you went from WAMP previously, because I use WAMP. Why is VVV so much easier? I mean, do you think that for a newbie who's developing, what would you suggest for them?
I suggest one thing about VVV that is made by the community, and it contains all the environment that use the core team developer, for example. So, and if you want to test a theme or a plugin, you use the completely same environment that is used by the core committers. So, for example, the PHP version, MariaDB version, or Nginx version, it's completely the same. Because sometimes there are a lot of, sometimes could be could compare. You can have an issue only about a different PHP version, and you don't know because you don't use the same environment used by the core committer. So, for example, MAMP, it's easier to install maybe because it's desktop oriented completely. But the difference is that MAMP has an environment that is strictly on web applications. VVV is a completely Ubuntu operation system, so you can telnet and SSH inside it, and you can install programs. You have a completely virtual Linux operation system in your system. That could be Mac or PC. And the main difference is that as the PHP unit test and code sniffer and all the things that are used by the community. So it's not easy to install maybe like MAMP or XAMPP or WAMP, because sometimes in Mac, for example, there is a path issue. I don't know if you have find installing the VVV, because sometimes when we make, we have a situation where John Blackburn come to Turin and we make a core contributor night, and we try to install VVV in laptops, and there is some trouble because you have to modify your local path. But when you solve this issue, and I think that it's advisable to use VVV. But if you use MAMP or XAMPP and you have no issue with the version or you no particular needs, you can also use what you are comfortable with, like said Jose.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and what's nice too is with those, the XAMPPs and the WAMPs, all those, they even have like alternatives, or not necessarily alternatives, but they have them for like both systems too. They have them for both Windows and Mac systems. That's the good thing. So you could literally go back and forth, if you're more familiar with something, or if you want something that's super simple and super quick, then obviously you'd go with XAMPP or WAMP, either one. It's just a matter of reading up some documentation, maybe like, oh, so where do I put this, and you're good. Mm-hmm. Whereas with VVV, you kind of have to set things up a little bit as to like, okay, so I need to install this, and then I run this.
Actually, I found it easier switching from a PC to a Mac because I was using VVV on both systems. Okay. I think what is also that I can destroy my system and restart it and rebuild it type thing. Where with MAMP or whatever, I'm not sure how I would, if I broke something in there, I'll actually use, was it WAMP at one point, and then I wasn't able to get the server to start up and things like that.
Yeah, so you have to like delete the whole install and reinstall.
Yeah, but with with VVV, you've just got your virtual box, and you just install a server. You create a new virtual box that's headless, and
Yeah, that's very important, because sometimes people say when we read destroy something, are afraid to do so. I was in a classroom, and when I told my students, okay, you can destroy your environment, and I explained them that the files were in another place, so you can destroy your wagon and rebuild it. So it's very useful.
So is VVV like a cloud-based solution then, and just your files that you're working on, like the theme files, plugin files, or whatever, are stored on your computer?
Sort of, but it's all locally. So you create, if you just VirtualBox, and you could when you create you're using Mac and you want to have a Windows install, and you install Windows in this VirtualBox, and this is the same thing what VVV does. It installs a virtual server onto this VirtualBox that you can access then.
Okay.
Yeah, VirtualBox is completely free. It is included in the VVV installation, so you don't have to install it separately.
Yeah, and it's constantly in development too, which is the nice part.
Yeah. I mean, there's a big update coming out soon where they're improving a lot of things. That's nice.
Another tool interesting is Docker, and the difference between Vagrant and Docker is that Docker is more is lighter, is more small, and it should be. I've never tested personally, but someone use it in also in a production website. So could replicate. You could replicate your local installation in a live installation. I don't test it. I don't know how it works, but it's something that with Vagrant is more difficult, because Vagrant use more memory. But Docker is a tool that something you can watch it and see how it will be developed.
And if someone was interested in using an environment that makes it easier to use the sniffs, the automated checks, is there an environment which is sort of more friendly to that and easy to set up? Because I personally found that when I was setting up CS-Lint with Atom and installing the sniffs, it was quite tricky on a WAMP setup on Windows. Is it any different on VVV and other
VVV
environments?
actually comes with PHP-CS.
Okay.
Yes, but the problem is it's the separation. So you need to SSH into your VVV environment like you would do with a normal server, and then you have access to Code Sniffer in there. So you'd run it on your themes or plugins that you've installed on the site there. Okay. And I'm not sure how easy. I don't think it is possible to run it in Atom. I think maybe PHP Storm has a feature where it can get it from a virtual server.
Yeah, I think
run the data and stuff like that. But Atom is not at a stage that it can do that yet.
Yeah, PHP Storm has its command line environment where you can launch also the PHP CS testing, and but you can also obviously integrate it in syntax highlighting like Atom. It's quite the same. It's very useful also.
Yeah, but you can always run the plugin. I mean, that's why we've also got the plugin that you can just install. And I mean, you don't need to run it many times. So you just run it when you're coming to near your development, or you've just built a new feature and you just want to make sure everything's up to standards. Run it once and you get all the errors, fix them, double check, and then you can commit it or whatever.
Yeah. And speaking of plugins, actually, that's one of the other things too. What do you guys use as far as plugins when it comes to either like reviewing themes or even developing themes? Obviously, the one that we have as theme reviewers is the theme check. That's the one that most people like to use. But what's interesting is, I know I've said this before, and I'll say this again too. If the theme is already in the repo, it's gone through the theme check at least once.
Yes.
What are some of the plugins you guys use or recommend? Ulrich, start with you.
For general development, I think like most developers these days use Query Monitor, and so that's super useful. And then so on the front end, it adds a button to the admin bar which tells you the number of queries that you've got, and then you can click on it and see if there's any PHP errors. That makes them nicely, and also adds a special tab for those, so it doesn't just get added anywhere. Then there's also which page are you on, which page template is being loaded, which scripts are being loaded. So if you're doing some conditionals, then you can double check, and that means that you don't need to open the inspect element or whatever field. You see all the data in there. I mean, it also tells you if you're doing any slow queries. There's a lot of cool features when you're debugging or developing things.
Yeah, actually, what's cool about that one is the other day I was actually doing a quick overview or an admin review on one, and it showed me that there was a dependency missing. That was from Query Monitor. It was saying, it was literally loading a script that wasn't loading. So it was like, oh, hey, you're missing a dependency.
Yeah.
Cristiano, what do you use and what do you recommend?
A very useful plugin I recommend is Simply Show Hooks, or any plugin that help you to have the hooks displayed when you are developing something. That is something that in Magento, for example, is included, and in WordPress there are a lot of plugins that make that display the hooks that are used in the page you are viewing. So if you want to modify or to you are developing from scratch a plugin or a themes, it's very, very useful, because it make it visual, something that is not. So Simply Show Hooks or another similar that make visible hooks. And Query Monitor, of course, is very, very good.
Nice. Afsal, what do you recommend and what do you like to use?
I use a plugin called Debugger by Pros. I find that really useful. It shows you the errors at the bottom of the screen for any PHP issues, things like that. I find that very effective. Debug bar, you can test. I think there's a plugin as well which switches RTL, and that's really good. Sometimes if a theme has the RTL tag, just to do a quick scan, and things like Pig Latin for translating, things like that. I don't know if there's a particular plugin that I think is the most useful. I think you need to have a range of plugins that cover a range of different issues. But yeah, Debugger and Query Monitor are probably some of the most useful ones that I've come across.
Yeah, the one that I actually find useful at times too, I've noticed at least one or two reviewers mention this one, is the Pig Latin. That one's really, really good for like translation issues. I don't know if you guys have used it.
Yeah, but I had a problem when one person I suggest to use it can't be able to come back, because also the backend became complete. So I have to,
because it
to ask
translated everything.
Yeah, you have to use it, but very carefully. You have to know how to disable a plugin via FTP. And, not so known, so I practice like that. So, but it's very useful. It's simple but very completely useful. If check if the language is well managed in your theme or plugin.
Oh, really? Well, that was nice.
This came back.
Not sure why that happened.
You're muted, you'll say.
Your mic's on mute.
That was nice. That was nice. Love
Well
technical
deserved.
difficulties.
Anyway,
Computer doesn't like me today.
but it's like television broadcast. We have the same problem.
Yeah. No, it's just reminding me of when I actually first installed it too. Like I literally activated it and then I was like, oh, how yeah.
So that's how it works.
Exactly.
It's like,
The
okay,
same.
hey, at least I know it works.
Yeah, very
I
useful.
guess the final thing we wanted to discuss was version control. Was it, Jose?
Yeah. One of the things obviously we like to touch upon is when you're making changes, you want to go back to something. It's not one of those where it's just like you have a folder saying, hey, this is version 1, this is version 2. Using a version control system makes it a lot easier for some, but it's a matter of preference too. I know I've used both Git and SVN before. I've wanted to learn Mercurial and like HG, all those other ones, but just don't have the time. You guys?
I use Bitbucket. It's got a very good user interface for committing and pushing. So you can do it through that, or you can do it command line as well. Find that really useful. I like to detail changes in the changelog, so I find version control quite important.
I've used Git, and I have an occasion to use also GitLab. That is a suite that is it replicates the same things that you can do with GitHub, but in a personal environment, completely private. And I think that Git is my favorite, and you can integrate it also in PHP Storm or in Atom, I think. In PHP Storm, I'm sure. And you can also, it's better when you work, it's useful even if you work alone, but when you work in a team, in a remote team, I think that you have to use one of version control system. Maybe not Git, maybe what you find comfortable with, but nowadays, version 1, version 2, the right one, the last one, the previous one is something that it's very hard to manage because you can lose something. So version control, I think that is a very useful and modern way of programming, mostly in team.
Yeah, I also use Git. It's also, I use GitHub, and I think the new review process is very important and very good. So I've been helping a colleague write, have an update of a theme, and so he created a pull request and added me as a reviewer, and so I was able to go through it, double check anything. I found a few issues, mentioned it, he was able to fix it, and then I was able to approve it. So, I mean, in teams, a lot of team reviewers, I think, have some type of team or a colleague or a friend who can help them. And so if they put it up on GitHub or something like that, create a pull request and then get someone to go through the code for you before you upload it to the theme review process. And that means that you are a bit more sure that you haven't done a silly mistake. I mean, we all do mistakes. I mean, I've learned a lot in the past couple of days with a colleague of mine doing my reviewing my code and all that. And I mean, we're not all perfect, but just having this extra person to do it before it lands in the review queue saves a lot of time and helps you learn also.
Exactly.
No, it really does. Like even having one other person helps a huge amount. And that's one of the things that I've said before in like the previous chats and the previous hangouts. It's like, hey, we're here. If you want someone to talk to, if you have questions, don't hesitate to ask.
Yeah, Slack channel, team review, and in IRC, is someone still on IRC?
Yeah, actually, I'll peruse from time to time, but it's been a while.
There was a comics about it. I don't know if you have read in Twitter. It's very fun. Maybe I will post.
You might have to share that. I'd like to see that.
And one thing that I can add in personally, that using version control is very useful to go back because you're not more afraid to editing anything. You are more free. You feel more safe when you are in a version control. and you are more free to test everything. Also in a pre-production environment, because sometimes you have the testing local, pre-production, and production. I think that is the best environment you can work on, but obviously not always the best situation. And in that kind of situation, the version controlling is perfect.
Yeah.
Very true. Very true. All right. So with that, do we have anything else we want to add, guys? Final comments, jokes, anecdotes. We'll
It
start
may be
off-
just quick. There were just two other apps that you could use to run virtual environments. So one was desktop server, and the other one was local by
Flywheel.
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 Those that we, I think, forgot to mention before.
Yeah. I didn't try it.
Yeah. I think desktop server is quite popular with some people. And
Yeah, especially the most recent update. I know that you can install Nginx on it. Or it comes with Nginx. And then I think you can actually switch between versions of PHP on that too. Not sure on that one. If someone can correct me, that'd be awesome.
I don't know.
Not same.
But,
Well,
Cristiano, you got anything else to say? Want to share with everybody?
Always if someone has some issue or doubt, contact us, and every person in the community in Slack, and so this is the place where you can ask everything. And I think the team reviewing is improving with automating, and also we are discussing some rules that make team review even better, and you can join us and be part of this community in every way you prefer. So what we can ask is be part of this situation. If you use WordPress and use everything related to it, go to Slack and see what you can do and how you can learn a lot. Sharing and not being afraid of everything. If you are not sure, don't be afraid to say something silly, because it happens a lot to everybody of us. So come to Slack and ask, and be completely easy.
so I guess my final comment would just be that it looks like this is going to be an exciting year. We've got automation coming in from the work that Ulrich and the rest of the team on automation are doing. So anybody who's wanting to speed up the queue and feels that they can help out with automation, reach out to Ulrich and the rest of the automation team. Try out the plugin that they posted in the channel a few days ago. But yeah, just reach out if there's anything you want to discuss or want any help with.
Awesome. Ulrich?
Yeah. If anyone wants to help out with automation or has any good questions setting it up, then let me know. I'm happy to help. And thank you for having me on the Shindig this time.
Yeah.
No,
That's fun.
Really like it. Thanks.
Thanks for joining.
All right. So with that, my last words really are just don't be afraid of messing up. It's going to happen. You learn from it. Don't be afraid of reaching out to any of us. I'm always available. I try to make the time when I can. If I can't, obviously, there's probably a good reason, like the meteor kind of landed on my head. But yeah, don't be afraid of asking questions. That's how we all learned. So with that, we'll see you guys around.
See you later. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.